let's see on our plan, what are these trees right here on the left? You're all tree experts now.
I haven't even looked at my thing yet.
Here, I can grab that one.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so that was Jason.
That pink one. Yeah, so these are the London plane trees. Who had the right answer over there? Yay! All right. So London plane trees. We have a couple of the existing Chinese elms. On the other side over there, we already have some of these trees planted, and they are what? More London planes? No. The little pink purple ones. Armstrong red maple. So we've got the London plane, and then the Armstrong red maple, and then past that, we have the Japanese Zelkovas on the way down. So now these things we've been looking at the map, you can start seeing what they're going to look like.
And you can see the parking lights. Really,
right.
The example really well.
Then we've got the Cobras, and then we've got the pedestrian lights. Yeah. So this street's really starting to take shape. A couple little things are left. When they pulled them all off, there were some of those sidewalk lights for the basement underneath. Because those are historic, they had to repair them, even though we're going to cover them back up with sidewalk. It's bizarre. That's one of those things I can't explain.
This is a really good example, too, of how wide the sidewalks are going to be on this side.
Super wide.
Yeah.
So for a restaurant that's out here, think of all the space. They only have to leave 6 feet for pedestrians. The rest of that can be outdoor dining space. Even on this side, in this scheme, 14 feet sounds small, but it's actually a very wide sidewalk. Yeah. Usually it's about 11. So even on this side, you have plenty of room. Yes?
Did we ever think about getting diagonal parking here to be able to fit more cars in front of restaurants?
Yeah, so diagonal parking and parallel parking were also one of those compromises. My main thing is revitalization, and diagonal would have been better for that, but we also had people that wanted to preserve as much of the pedestrian space as possible. So it became a compromise between what I wanted for the businesses and what they wanted for pedestrians. And so we don't get as many spaces in, but we do get a lot of pedestrian space. And I would say the compromise is the way to go in a lot of these things. So
red X's that like are on Bank of Italy. What are those?
The red
They're
X.
not like slated for here.
No, the red X is a sign for the fire department. If this building were to be on fire, they would know that it's not been seismically upgraded. So they need to have extra caution going into the building. It's not a very good way to communicate that, frankly. It makes everyone think they're going to tear it down, but they're not. So it's a great question. Oh, the other thing that we allowed in the new downtown development code is rooftop dining and rooftop bars. So some of these one-story buildings like Los Panchos, or when we get further down where Luftenberg's was, Walter Smith's was, the white building at the end of this block, that roof is visible from every seat in the stadium. And it'd be cool as things start to go to get a restaurant that wants to be on the ground floor, use all that space around it for outdoor dining, but also to be able to use a rooftop.
Rooftop lounge.
Very popular in other cities. A couple of our buildings, Bank of Italy building and the Security Bank Pacific Southwest building, are also an interesting kind of building design. They're called the tower on a pedestal. So the ground floor is a lot bigger than the tower is. So you also have these neat spaces where you could do outdoor dining as well.
Do a lot of these rooftops have like areas like HVAC units and stuff like that?
They do. So you have to move that stuff around or figure out how to cover it. But the revenue potential is so big that we'd hope that the revenue would pay for those kind of renovations. And they're very popular in other cities. Once they get started, then every building starts wanting them.
Some of these neon signs be restored, like the guaranteed G that used to spin Security Bank, will that be restored?
My guess is that will eventually come down like the other 3 sides have, because it's blocking the windows on the 16th floor. But like the guaranteed G, some bigger cities actually have like historic sign foundations where people will contribute funds, and they can go to a building owner like that and say, we'll pay for the restoration of the sign. Or some of the Tower District, like the old 7-Up sign that you'll see, or some others that are up there, have been neglected. It would be nice to see kind of our city start doing some of those same things too. Because the old signage is just one more way that we add that character and flavor into downtown.
Is anything going on with this building yet?
Nothing yet. And really it's a trick of economics. So I've had a lot of people worry about rents going up in downtown once renovation happens and we get things going. I would say an equally bad problem, or maybe even a worse problem, is that rents are too low. And you think about the business owner and you think, well, rents could never be too low, right? If that building costs $18 million to restore and rents downtown are only 50 cents a square foot, you could never get the loan or the investment to make that kind of investment in a downtown that has low rents, because you couldn't pay the loan or the investment back. So we really need rents to be up to the point where the building owners can get a loan, or investors to be able to restore these buildings. Now, and rents are weird because they can't be too high. You know, if all the rents are $2 a foot and this guy wants to charge $5 a foot, he's going to collect $0 because the market doesn't bear it. And if he has a business in here and he goes from $2 to $5 a foot and puts his business out of business, he's also not going to be able to collect it. So rents kind of have an equilibrium to them in the commercial side, at least. So right now our rents are too low to be able to finance the renovation of these buildings.
Don't they like try to drum up who's going to be in the buildings first, tell them what the rent would be to get the loan financed?
Yeah, it's kind of they both have to happen at the same time. So you have to be able to go to, say this, I saw a building like this in Cleveland that was the coolest restaurant in town, in an old bank building like this. So say you found a restaurateur that said that they wanted to come in here, you'd have to say, I have the financing to fix it up for you. You can't get the financing until you get the tenant. So you kind of need both of those to work together. And then the restaurant's not going to come in until they see that there's the foot traffic that's going to support them. So by doing this and getting the traffic going and getting some foot traffic and having Los Panchos be successful across the street is going to make a restaurant want to go in there, and then they can show the bank that they have a credit-worthy tenant, and then they can pay their loan back, and then they can fix up the building. So all of these things really work together really nicely. But the main thing that we all can do is support the businesses who are here. So it's a lot to ask of you if you're over 21, but if you can come down next Friday or Saturday and buy margaritas and post pictures of you and all your friends, then that gets more people down here, and then that gets more people to say, hey, look, I could do this too, or I could do it even better than them, and we get that economy built up again. Because we're really the base of that economy, and if we're not showing up and we're not supporting the folks that are already here, we're not going to be able to get new ones. The other thing that I'm hoping the Downtown Fresno Partnership is going to be able to do is, once the street opens, we're also going to be able to close it for events. So see these right behind Chris, these circles in the ground?
Yeah.
We will be able to screw bollards into any one of these intersections and close off blocks. We can close off just one block, or we can close off the entire thing. We can get about 200 vendors out on this street. So, is anyone from Hanford at all? So I had a similar problem in Hanford when I was working there, that at 5 o'clock it was completely dead. And they said, we want more restaurants. So I thought, well, I could go to restaurateurs in Visalia and bring them down here and say, don't you want to open a restaurant here? And they'd look and go, not really, right? But I could start an event on Thursday nights, and they have an event that starts next week in Hanford called Thursday Night Marketplace. And so for 26 Thursdays in a row, there are 2,000 to 5,000 people on their main street. And now I can go to a restaurateur and say, wouldn't you like to have a restaurant here? So events are good at sort of being a catalyst to bring in more foot traffic. And once business people see that foot traffic, then they want to open a business. And then the events can support that business with that foot traffic until downtown kind of develops its own foot traffic and doesn't have to rely on the events so much. But it's a really good way to kind of prime the foot traffic pump, which is the ultimate way to gauge the success of a downtown, is by how much foot traffic we have going in front of these storefronts.
Well, there's a big festival today, right?
Right.
Grizzly Fest.
There's Grizzly Fest, and I love Grizzly Fest, but so I'll give you kind of my downtown revitalization critique, is that if it's only happening inside the stadium, it's not helping fill these businesses as much.
That's right.
So what I would hope is in a few years, Grizzly Fest is in the stadium, but we also have Grizzly Fest happening all over here.
Bands and everything.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they should be just slammed during Grizzly Fest weekend or opening weekend of the baseball stadium or those kinds of things. So we really need the foot traffic to be out here more than we need it to be in the convention center or City Hall or on the other side or whatever. We want to get as much foot traffic jammed on these 6 blocks as possible.
Well, like when they do their taco trucks, they should have the trucks out here.
Right,
instead
exactly.
Of outside.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you've been to the San Luis Obispo Thursday Night Farmers Market,
Yeah.
they only allow 7 businesses to put out barbecues. And those 7 businesses probably pay their entire month's rent in just one Thursday night.
Wow.
Like McClintock's, there's a line that goes on for days to get a McClintock's barbecue sandwich or chicken or whatever. So we can do those kind of events too and really make this place hot. But we can also use that Mariposa Plaza and put a stage in there, and also have, I like to think of a reggae weekend, an Armenian festival weekend, a peach festival weekend, all these different things going down here. So when you look at the schedule of events for Fulton Street, you're going to say, well, I guess I'm spending the next year downtown because I don't want to miss one of these activities, right?
Yeah.
Hot rod shows, all kinds of things that downtowns do to prime that foot traffic pump.
Yep.
Does that work?
Yep.
All right, let's walk on down.